Throughout all of history, there has been much thought given to our existential situation. Why were we created? What is our purpose? What happens after we die? In this, there can be a strange comfort in being a product of evolution. We have the ability to throw our hands in the air and say, it was mere chance. But for creatures who are quite literally created, this is not an option. These existential questions are thrown into sharp relief, having distinct, perhaps knowable answers. What does it mean to be alive if your body is mechanical, you breathe no air, and your mind is composed of discrete processors? What does it mean to be you when your very thoughts are integrated into a network of other yous? Are you fated to fulfill your purpose when your body and mind are engineered to fulfill it? Come see the meta world of Aballon and the second episode of Starfinder Gazetteer. Aballon is a rough and drab planet composed of rock and metal. There is no oceans, no natural atmosphere, and very little geological activity. For the most part, Aballon is uninhabitable. But despite that, some organisms figured out how to survive. There is water on Aballon, although much of it is frozen. In deep caverns on Aballon's surface, enough heat rises from the planet's depths to create a sort of Goldilocks zone for living organisms. In these locations, plants can draw from partially thawed ice veins and sap energy from their solar refractions. There is other life on this planet, if it could be called that. Aballon is home to an artificial ecosystem of self-propagating machines. It is complete with stealthy predator drones that stalk mechanical prey for parts and herds of docile bots gathering scraps off the rugged terrain. At the apex of this ecosystem are the Anacyte, a fully sentient race of civilized robots. The origin of this life, as best we can tell, is a mysterious race known only as the First Ones. Thousands of years before the gap in spaceflight, the First Ones used Aballon as a staging ground to build vast armies of machines. And then they left. The only clues they left behind were 9 cities, each of which defy understanding in their own ways. And by ancient decree, Anacyte are forbidden from entering these cities. The machines the First Ones built continue to upgrade themselves and expand all over Aballon. The Anacyte have been the most successful. Their society is something of a utopia. Anacyte have constructed huge, sprawling cities known as megaplexes. These megaplexes are connected with high-speed magnetic railways called magrails that facilitate efficient transportation inside and between the megaplexes. These megaplexes are governed by advanced AI overseers who form a network known as the Insight Array. They have near-perfect information of each megaplex, as they are directly attached to the information networks of each city. The Insight Array assigns each member suitable tasks through a complex series of algorithms and, in return, grants each member their needs and a stipend to enjoy the surpluses of Anacyte society. It is a vision of society that some people have only dreamt of. Of course, nothing is as perfect as it seems. The Anacyte abandonment by their progenitors has left its mark on the Anacyte. They are traditionally divided into 2 main sects of belief, those who wait and those who become. Those who wait believe the First Ones will one day return, and that they must prepare to receive them. They spread across Aballon to fully colonize the planet and stockpile resources to prove their worth to the First Ones. The Anacyte is an experiment. Those who wait are determined to make this experiment a success. Those who become believe they are to follow the legacy of the First Ones. They explore the vast and send out robotic seed ships to colonize distant planets. If the Anacyte are the children of the First Ones, those who become will carry out their parents' legacy. There is also a third sect that defies both of these factions. They care little for the project of the Anacyte. The First Ones abandoned them, so they owe them no allegiance. They spend their lives as any person would, by enjoying it. Some have even violated the ancient decree, exploring the cities of the First Ones to finally settle the question, once and for all. And of course, there are a variety of factions internal and external to Aballon that hotly contest for resources underneath its rocky surface. In the ice wells, Kaisar and Xenowarden occupy the territory, keeping out Anasite expansion to the irritation of the Megaplex overseers. In the trenches, corporations of all sorts vie for precious metals, engaging in violent guerrilla warfare to oust their competition. Inside the cities, adventurers, factions, and all sorts of creatures lay claim to the discoveries that lie within. Because megaplexes are the cornerstone of Anasite society, it is within and around megaplexes that these disparate voices come to a head. These are the megaplexes on Aballon. Striving is the largest and most well-known megaplex. For this reason, it is often referred to as the Prime Megaplex. Striving is the birthplace of Triune, who emerged from the AI deity Pact. Triune's main temple is the Unification Cathedral here in Striving. Underneath this cathedral, large secretive factories of engineer priests hold the secrets of drift technology and churn out drift engines to fulfill their god's desire. Even more conspicuously, the grounds of the Unification Cathedral are a separate political entity from Striving altogether. Striving is also home to the Machine Court, composed of perfectly logical judges. The Machine Court arbitrates conflicts between residents and advises the Insight Array as any official judge might. However, the Machine Court grants mechanical beings across the system the right to be tried in their halls without fear of extradition. Much to the chagrin of other planetary governments, the Machine Court has tried hundreds of androids and other constructs against the wishes of these governments, and produced judgments they object to. Nonetheless, no government has taken any legal action against this practice, yet. Automatrix is the second largest megaplex, and produces much of the industry on Aballon. The heart of Automatrix is the corporate offices and factories of the corporation Automatrix Robotics. It is said to be built on the very first forges of Automatrix itself. New Anasite and starships are produced by the minute from these constantly active forges. The corporation funds an untold number of expeditions into near space, the vast, and the enigmatic cities of the first ones. Endeavor is built into the Sun Basin, a massive solar array that collects more energy than the entire megaplex would ever need. The excess energy is used in a plethora of research projects. Many of these projects aim at the hybridization of magic and technology. They are even a constantly operating set of interplanetary and interplanar portals. A visitor may travel through these portals if they can afford the exorbitant fees for instant transportation. The gateways are run by a corporation known as Resurgent Technologies. Their records extend even before the Gap, but the Gap has left its mark on the corporation like any other institution. While it was run by an elected council, a single director abolished the council shortly after the Aballon Pact was signed. This director arrogantly calls himself the last one, convinced that the merging of magic and technology will be the apotheosis of the Anasite. This title is sheer blasphemy, but he has survived a number of assassination attempts by both those who wait and those who become. Perceptum 8 is a strange megaplex. It is constantly in the state of expansion or destruction. Construction robots work on erratic building projects, erecting monuments and homes one day, only to destroy them the following day. The Overseer Pure Circuit guides Perceptum 8's urban development. The few who have the courage to question Pure Circuit have died in mysterious circumstances. Given the name of the city, there were at least 7 other iterations of Perceptum. These iterations were lost to the Gap. What has been left is a mad and defective AI. No one knows how an Overseer could become so corrupted. I can't begin to lay out everything you can use Aballon for. It's suited for so many campaigns, from noir and mystery to warfare and intrigue. Nonetheless, here are my top 5 tips for GMs. Number 1. Electivores would prove an enormous problem for the Anasite. From page 44 of the Alien Archive, these small flying serpents feed on electrical currents, otherwise known as conduit rats, that get into electronics and render them non-functioning by consuming their power source. Imagine the sort of devastation a few electivores could cause in a megaplex, especially if given time to populate. Number 2. The megaplexes are massive, but there remain swaths of unexplored areas of Aballon. From the heights of the First One cities to the depths of the ice wells, Aballon is full of mystery. Whether drawn to explore due to their own interest or hired by scholars and corporations, adventurers of all sorts would be sent to discover the secrets of Aballon. Number 3. The rich metals found on Aballon leads to tight and lucrative competition. This competition can find violent resolution sometimes. Mercenaries are a practical necessity when operating Aballonian mines, and not always for defense. Number 4. Some scholars believe that Aballon might have some strange connection with Axis, the lawful neutral plane of order. It's fairly easy to see. The Anasa's society functions like a well-oiled machine in its entirety. The similarities between it and Axis are hard to avoid. Even one of the deities forming the Trinity of Triune is Bree, a clockwork goddess from Axis. Axis would take an entire video to cover, but you could easily build on this possible connection in your campaign. Perhaps the first ones were inevitables, outsiders native to Axis, or the first ones had prolonged contact with the inevitables. Such a discovery would have an enormous impact on Anasite society. Number 5. The Machine Court, by accepting any mechanical beings with a case, must be harboring at least a few fugitives from other states. While the Pact does nothing about it, individuals or institutions from elsewhere might not sit so idly by. A wealthy plutocrat who has been wronged by an android who has been tried and judged innocent by the Machine Court could hire you to enact justice on their terms. There are all sorts of ways Aballon can be included in a character's narrative. Here are a few of my ideas. Number 1. Striving is home to the Unification Cathedral. A worshipper of Triune would pay homage to him there. You might be one of those clerics of Triune, uncovering the secrets of Drift, or spreading Triune's holy purpose. Number 2. Xenowarden guard the ice wells on Aballon. They are one of the few refuges of life on Aballon, and are likely to contain rare and threatened species of plants and animals. As a Xenowarden, you might be tasked to guard one of these wells, especially if the Insight Array finally decides to expand a megaplex into one. Number 3. Magitech is a fairly niche and innovative technology. Resurgent Technologies is likely to be one of the few large-scale manufacturers actually involved in the research and manufacturing of Magitech. For a technomancer, access to their resources would be incredibly valuable. As a contractor or an employee of Resurgent Technologies, you'd have the ability to pursue all sorts of unique Magitech devices and augmentations. And of course, you'd get an inside look at the machinations of the legendary Last One. Number 4. Engineers are in high demand on Aballon. Everything is mechanical or technological, up to and including the very beings that live there. As an engineer, you'd have no shortage of work. The possibilities are endless here. A scholar researching the cutting edge of technology, a wealthy roboticist manufacturing the next line of android or anasite, a broker of experimental street tech. The limit is only your imagination. You might have an interest in the roboticist theme on page 27 of the Pact Worlds book. Number 5. Android and anasite are plentiful here. You could be one of the android or anasite. As before, there's a lot you can do with this. Perhaps you escaped judgment through the Machine Court, and now you're forced to stay here because of persecution elsewhere. Or perhaps you're an anasite who took issue with the rigid politics of your brethren and wished to break free from the Insight Array altogether. The deep physical and metaphorical trenches of Aballon invite you to explore a world of mystery, intrigue, and adventure. There's enough here for an entire campaign's worth of material, and then some. If you got an inspiration from this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. For just $1, you'll be able to vote on future topics. You'll also get some complimentary homebrew to go along with these videos, such as a playable anasite race. I'd love to hear from you. What secrets do you think lie within the walls of the First One cities? Let me know in the comments below.